Hey there, Nate here with the Volunteer Tech Vlog on the Live Sound 101 YouTube channel. Let's drive. I don't finagle with the camera while I'm driving. I do this very safely, rest assured. I hit record, and then I drive, and I talk, and that's about it. But anyway, I just had a little 4-hour work session with Josh over at the church, doing some updates and assessments of the system, and this is post VBS. So Josh likes to go all out for VBS. He had like a crew of 4 or 5 young people up there running all the media for VBS week with a pro presenter and running the Yamaha TF5 and doing some iMag and all kinds of fun stuff going on for VBS. I actually got the kids, this is the first time with our TF5 that we actually had some young people kind of using it for the first time, and it was really cool. I just want to say Josh is doing an awesome job. He had the lighting, we never do like lighting control in our typical, we have a very traditional type of service. We just have house lights and they're either on or they're off and we can dim them, but other than that we don't use any of the professional lighting we have. And I say professional, we've got a separate lighting subsystem with a DMX controller, and it's nothing, it's like DJ quality type stuff. It's not like super high end or anything, but we do have this lighting capability and we just never use it. And so Josh pulled out all the stops there. So he had the TF5 going, he had Yamaha, from Yamaha, he had the Pro Presenter running, he had a projector on, he had the displays, LCD displays being used up at the front, he had the TriCaster going, PTZ camera. So basically he had everything happening up there, and he had a lot of young people get excited to use the equipment, which was really cool, because they get excited about using the cool equipment, and then that carries over into kind of serving the church on a regular basis. So that's the thinking, is that you know, yeah, you can use this cool equipment and kind of get into the rotation on Sundays. So anyway, we're post VBS, we're putting everything back to normal. He did a lot of fancy stuff that we don't typically do for the kiddos to have an awesome VBS experience, which was great. So now we're putting everything back, and of course we've got, you know, EDID handshaking things, because we've got little, you know, 2x1 switches inserted in there. We've got DVI distribution amps, DVI 2x1 switches in there to kind of do some special things. So we repatched things with the video. That was step 1. I tried to do the IR setup. So we bought the Zantac IR repeater and distribution block, so that we could, you know, with one click of a remote, send a signal to the IR distribution block, and then the IR signal would go into our Extron DVI over CAT extenders, and they're designed to do 232 and IR as well as DVI over CAT, so they can do IR over CAT as well. And then the IR bud gets installed at the far end at the display, and then you can remotely control that display. It kind of worked in theory, but it wasn't reliable enough. And what we were thinking about potentially doing is hooking up, using those DVI over CAT extenders. I think they're DTP 230s or DTP 300s from Extron. We're gonna wire them all up so that we could just basically, with one remote push of one button, turn on and off all the displays. But what we found was they weren't really reliable enough. And so I was doing some troubleshooting to see if we could get it to work. And I got the thing working where I could see the little IR bud kind of light up, and I could see that there was signal being sent to it, but it just didn't seem to be strong enough for some reason. So I'm thinking, okay, well, we've only got a power supply located at the transmitter side, and it's the way these Extrons work is you power them at one side, and then it sends power down the CAT cable, so at the receiver, at the display, you don't have to worry about a power supply. And that's really convenient, because you don't have to have extra junk kind of hidden behind the display, more so than you need. So I figured, well, why don't we put a power supply at the display, see if that gives the IR blaster enough juice. And so we took the power supply, put it in there, and it still didn't really make enough of a difference. We got a lot of shoddy IR, and I was putting that IR but all different places, and I was trying to think, well, we could get like a blackout for the IR, like kind of like to put a basically cup over that IR, so all the IR energy gets directed towards that little sensor on the display. But thinking about practicality of that and how people use the room, they still like to walk up to the display and use it, so I didn't want to black out that IR. But so we just came to terms with the fact that IR probably not going to be the best solution, especially if you're trying to issue one command from one control and have it go to 3 places at the same time. I mean, I can imagine all kinds of nightmare scenarios where you hit it and two or three displays turn on, and then you hit it again, and then the 2 turn off and the 1 turns on, and it's not going to be robust. So we were trying to do kind of like a poor man's remote control system, and probably not. We'll circle back to that later, but for now we're kind of putting that little aspect of it on hold. The next thing we did was RF upgrade. So we relocated our antennas. We've got for our wireless microphones, we've got an antenna distribution system, and we've been getting pretty consistent RF dropouts for a long time now. And so we bought these from Shure, these little antenna amplifiers. They've got like a little 3 dB or 10 dB gain adjustment on them, and we bought some 50 ohm RF extension cables so we can remote mount those antennas to get some better results, rather than have the antennas kind of behind back in the media loft. So that was a pretty quick and easy install. We just did a little temporary install. We put those antennas on microphone stands because it comes with little mounts where you can just put those antennas on a standard microphone stand. So we put those on there and we tested it out. It seemed to work real good. So the big test will be tomorrow when everybody's in there with their phones and all their devices and everything, and we'll see when there's a full house if there's any RF dropouts anymore. But I think the way those antennas work is it's a diversity system, right? So you want to put those antennas at 45-degree angles to get the maximum reception characteristics is what I'll call it. And reading that manual, the way those work, I mean, when you've got the antenna distro set up, you can only go as far apart as a rack-mounted piece of equipment. So you got those things at like 19 inches at 45-degree angles. When you read the literature about how to install those, they say to put them as far apart as possible. So we put them about, 15, 20 feet apart at 45-degree angle, and clear line of sight to where the microphone, the wireless mic transmitter is located. And we talked for 20, 25 minutes, didn't notice any dropouts. We recorded it. Of course, I didn't listen back to it yet, so we'll have to listen back to it and just double check the recording, see if there were any dropouts, but I didn't notice any when we were just sitting there talking into the wireless. So that was a very good thing. Oh, what did we do? So far I talked, we did the video distribution, we did the RF update, the IR repeater I tried to do, and it just was getting mixed results, so we decided to stop wasting our time on that. And then the last thing we did was the organ. Oh man, this is what I wanted to talk about in this video. We were trying to find a line out for our organ so we could get like a solid line level input for the broadcast mix. I mean, the organ is great, but it's its own subsystem. So it's loud, it fills the room, sounds great, but we wanted to get a line out for the record feed and for the broadcast feed so that people can hear the organ a little better. Same thing with the piano. We're going to probably come up with a better piano miking solution in the future, other than, just a 57 on the floor. But so we've got this organ. We opened up the back panel. We looked inside of it. I found the literature. I'm looking through the schematic. I'm trying to find any line out. I'm not seeing any line outs anywhere. It's really weird. So we're just poking around looking at it. And then on the next page of the manual, there's like a schematic, and then there's like a config kind of guide. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, geez, this looks like Windows 95. And I'm looking at this thing, I'm like, holy cow, I see like an RS-232 port inside this organ. I see MIDI. I see all kinds of stuff. But I'm like, holy cow, our organ is running Windows 95 embedded. It's crazy. Crazy. Guy mowing the lawn just hit a rock or something. So anyway, it was a blast doing the kind of troubleshooting that organ. But I found the audio line out. It's not labeled as line out. It was like slot number 5, port number P1304. But I'm looking at this. I'm like, that's audio cable. There's clearly a red and a black in there. There's a couple pairs of them. That's definitely audio cable. I could tell. Okay, here's the high end audio. Here's the low end, because I think there's a couple different. There's 2 different outputs for this organ. There's like the higher range and there's a lower range. So it's kind of like a biamp system. It looks like. Definitely noticed the audio cable. And I had Josh actually fire the thing up and play it. And I'm just to test, I unplugged. It looked like a Molex port, something like that. I unplugged it, and of course, audio cut out. So I'm like, yeah, this is definitely where the line out is coming. And we plugged it back in, and you could hear the organ, the sound coming out of the system again. Traced the wires back and went down to a little amplifier. And so I could potentially get some pins and try to splice make a special cable harness to plug into that adapter there, and actually get a line out. Or we were thinking, we noticed there's a speaker inside the organ as well. So there's like the main organ speakers, which are built into the building, located up in these baffles up there in the front of the sanctuary. But there's also like a 15-inch sub in that. When we pulled that rear panel off the organ, there's a 15-inch sub in there. So we could potentially bury a little microphone right next to that speaker. We were thinking that might test that out and see what it is. The thing is, that's going to pick up, pedal noises and things like that, which you don't really want to get. So we could put a microphone potentially in the subwoofer that's in the organ itself. We hide a little microphone in there. Or we could put a microphone up behind the baffles where like the main organ system is. Or we could potentially make a custom cable harness to plug in and just kind of splice off that line out there before it gets to that amplifier. So a couple of different options for organ. So it was a productive day. We got a lot done. Things are still in limbo. We don't like the mics. We're just kind of testing out antenna locations on those mic stands. It looks like it's going to work pretty good, but we might want to get like a 75-foot cable for the far ones so we can actually put them farther apart. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are still temporary. We got to cut some holes in walls, and we want to hire an electrician to run some wires for us. But we want to do some testing first to make sure the system's going to work before we cut up the walls and make holes and everything. We want to make sure the technology works. So we're going to use these temporary antenna locations for the RF for a while. But yeah, it was a productive morning. Spent about 4 hours over there with Josh, and it was good. So that's my my little vlog, live sound vlog for today. Thanks for watching. Love to hear what you're up to in the church tech world. Any other volunteers out there? What types of things you're doing? You got to schedule these days every once in a while. Even if you're a volunteer, to just go in and do some cleanup. Man, we just got so much work to do. It's like no matter how much cable management you do, VBS comes through and you patch in all these things and it's a mess again. And it's like, it's a full-time job just keeping on top of it, trying to keep everything clean. But it's fun. I do enjoy it. It is work though. It is work. So that'll do it for this video. My name's Nate. This is the Volunteer Tech Vlog on the Live Sound 101 YouTube channel. Thanks for subscribing. See you in the next video.